I'm so tired. This day has seemed like an eternity. My bones ache. Mainly my feet. I was on my feet all day. Isn't that a weird expression? I was on my feet all day. I mean, does anyone ever say, I have a headache because I was on my head all day? No. I love the way you just said that. I'm sorry, honey. I'm just a little giddy. You know how I get when I'm tired. Sometimes all the grown-up stuff gets too serious for me. The grown-up stuff of this world. There's so much doing and so much trying. And so many people. People everywhere. When I only really want one. No, you, not me. I always have you. Always have you here to snuggle up to before dream time. I'm not laughing at anything. Okay, it's just that I'm in 𝖊𝖆𝖉𝖆 mode. Yeah. You know that state that you're in just before you fall asleep. And they just taught us something. They taught us something funny. You really want to know? I mean, you seem shattered like. No, shattered in pieces. Shattered as in the way us Irish and English people use it. Extremely tired. It's like, I'm shattered like. We're very dramatic. Okay, so you want to know? When I was young, I had this ongoing fantasy that would kind of occur mostly at night like this, just before I fall asleep. And I used to fantasize about being the only person in the world, like having the whole world to myself. And I got to do things without being bothered by anyone. Like going to the cinema on my own, not listening to someone munching popcorn in my ear, enjoying the movie, walking to the shopping centre where everything could be mine. I could pour slush puppies as I pleased, eat tons of cotton candy. It was such bliss to dream about. I don't know, honey. I don't know who made the stuff, who made the cotton candy or anything. It was just in my fantasy, my wondrous fantasy. the cotton candy appeared like apples appear from apple trees. Just appeared. And I got to enjoy it all to myself. But then, dun, it all took a bit of a funny turn. It was kind of like when fantasy becomes reality and it never turns out the way you think. Oh, I didn't do a thing. It wasn't me. Well, I did, but I didn't. Oh, I'm getting very Irish now. Okay, so I told my best friend John, also known as the Bronze, about it, and it kind of influenced him a little. Well, the Bronze, and we called him that because he was tough. The Bronze. And he loved food so much. I mean, the guy would eat anything. He was like a goat or something. So we used to camp out my mother's backyard, and we discussed things, our philosophies and all that. We were only like 10 or 11 years old, like childish fantasies and all that. So when I was explaining my fantasy, he hatched a plan in his mind, unbeknownst to me, and he kept it to himself. But while I was telling him, I knew there was something up, because he was literally drooling when I was explaining how cool it would be to be the only person on Earth where you get to use everything and try everything out, and no one would stop you. There was no parents, and he was just like transfixed. And he was a rogue as well. The guy used to get into a lot of trouble, a lot of roguery, like not bad trouble, but kind of funny stuff. So one evening, he goes to a local supermarket, and he decides to hide there until all the staff left. And when they did, he crawled out from under a shelf and he realised my fantasy. So there the Bronze was, left by himself at like 11 years old in the supermarket, with all the bounty that any human could wish for. What did he do? Well, let's just say he went to work. He said he started off with a few different sodas. He laid them on the floor in a circle, like a ritual. And then he grabbed lots of chips, different flavours, chocolate, and even frosted cereal. And he said he felt like he was in heaven. And then he munched, and he munched, and he drank, and he munched, and he drank, until he became so full he was sick. And then his heaven began to turn into hell. So he found himself trapped in a supermarket, right, all alone, rolling on the floor, in pain, with a big junk food baby belly. So alone and afraid. And while all this was going on, his mom noticed that he wasn't home, because it was like maybe 11 p.m, which is very late for an 11-year-old kid. And she knew that he was a bit of a rascal as well, so she panicked and she called the police. And he was a missing person. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but yeah, you'll find out why it was funny. So the bronze was stuck inside the supermarket, just sick, lonely, and desperate. And then he thought about something. He thought of a way out, because he was banging at the windows, but there's no one around and no one could hear him. And so he went and he broke the fire alarm. And the fire brigade arrived, and the police arrived, and they found the bronze in an awful bad way. Like, the lad was absolutely ruined, banging on the window, with tears streaming down his face, melting the chocolate. So he was brought home, and he was scolded by his mother. And then, a couple of days later, maybe the next day, the supermarket called his mother, and they showed her the CCTV. And his mother said, although she was mad, she was really upset, she could not stop laughing at the scene. She said it was a mess. And she said she could see his joy, his child, like, wander, turn into a very, very, very meek scene. Oh, and I always think about him doing it. Like, eventually heading for frosted cereal. He got bored of everything. He was eating it raw. He was just putting fists of it into his mouth. So he was grounded for a long time after that. And you see, that's the danger of an unquestioned fantasy or philosophy. Bronze was the poster boy for that. The poor guy. More stories about him. You like hearing about him, yeah? Okay. So, there was another time. We were on holidays together in this Irish village. We were with his family, actually. And so one day he decided to stroll down to the store. And it has a huge bakery. But he didn't have that much money at all. And he adored creamy cakes. Like, the guy was a creamy cake addict. If there is such a thing, he was one. So while he was in the store, the shop owner turned his back, and the bronze caught like this creamy donut, and he put it up his sleeve. And then he went, then to cover it, he went and he bought some candy. And while he was buying the candy, the owner spotted the cream dripping down his sleeve, and he went crazy. He went nuts. So he grabbed a hold of him. He told him he was calling the police. So he tried to call the police, but there was only one policeman in the station, and he was busy somewhere. So he decided to go and talk to himself. So what does he do? He locks the bronze in the store, right? And left to bring the cops back. So the bronze said to me, he said he was terrified, because they treat shoplifting as a very, very serious crime in these villages. No one steals, there's no crime rate at all, so it would be a really bad thing. And it would be possible as well that his parents wouldn't be allowed to the village anymore, and would ruin all their vacations. So he was terrified. So again, just like in the supermarket, he was alone and he was afraid. And he told me he was sitting on the floor and he was sobbing with guilt and fear. But then he had a thought. And he looked up and he saw the trays of cakes where he was after stealing the donut. And then he lashed into them. And he said he had like 12 or something. And I asked, why? I said, man, why did you do that? And he said, I may as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. So his thinking process was, I'm screwed anyway, so I might as well get full. So he gorged. He had donuts, he had like pastries, he had custard pastries, chocolate eclairs, so like biscuit cakes, everything. Just stuffed his face. And the same thing happened. He got really tired and sick. Sugar crash. And then the owner and the cop came back. It was like 30 or 40 minutes later. The cop was probably in the pub or something, you know, in these villages. And they found the bronze on the floor, critically ill. From all the cream. And he even said that he spewed some of it on his t-shirt, so he was like a baby in the fetal position on the floor. And the cop later joked that it was a gruesome scene, one of the worst crime scenes he's ever seen up there. But the owner, he went ballistic, and the cop was laughing hysterically. So the bronze was just looking at the two of them. And he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just a pitiful, creamy mess on the floor. What did they do? Well, they gave him the punishment that you usually get for this kind of thing in rural Ireland. You get a boot up the butt, and then his mother got the bill. But it was the talk of the village for months and months and months. And it's still talked about down there. It's still passed down. Yeah, the day they locked the cake addict into a bakery. It was so funny. When he came to see me, I was looking at him saying, oh my God, you know, he's like covered in cream, chocolate on his face, and he's crying, and he's kind of, you know, my butt, my face, and he's like sick, and he's just he's a disaster. But it was so hilarious. But man, he had a serious sweet tooth, and it got him into a lot of trouble a lot of times. And I think it was especially bad when they let him into my introvert fantasy. Like, he actually acted it out, so I didn't have to. So I knew the pitfalls. He was my chocolate guinea pig. Isn't it amazing how quickly heaven can turn into hell? Like, you're in heaven for a time and everything is so good, and then you either say, okay, what's next? Or, okay, I'm full of cream. Full of popcorn, cotton candy, Pepsi, chili nuts, frosted flakes, yogurt, all swirling around your tummy. Poor prawns. Anyway, baby, I hope you enjoyed my stories tonight. And I hope you sleep well. Sleep is the ultimate heaven for introverts. But I suppose extroverts too, if they dream. So sweet dreams, lovely. And I bet You're gonna dream about cream pies tonight. I mean cream buns. I meant cream buns, creamy buns. Oh God. We could be waking up in the middle of the night after that if you got a craving. Okay. I love you, sweetie. 𝖕𝖆𝖆𝖆. Good night, my sweetie.